When you hear the words "the class of '92", the names roll off the tongue like a Hall of Fame lineup. Beckham, Giggs, Scholes, the Nevilles, Nicky Butt. It's football royalty, a generation of stars who rose through Manchester United's academy, won everything in sight, and defined an era. But here's the thing. They didn't do it alone. The 1992 FA Youth Cup winning team wasn't made up of just 6 players. It was a squad, a dressing room full of young talent, all dreaming of making it at Old Trafford. Some became household names, others became trivia questions, and a few disappeared from the spotlight entirely. This video isn't about the legends, it's about the others. The players who stood shoulder to shoulder with greatness, but never got the fame. The ones who battled injuries, slid into non-league, or stepped away from football altogether. The ones whose names you might have forgotten, but whose stories are every bit as fascinating. This is the forgotten members of Manchester United's class of '92. Where are they now? The man between the posts for Manchester United's 1992 FA Youth Cup winning side was Kevin Pilkington. He was a solid, dependable presence in goal. He was already showing signs of maturity beyond his years. Pilkington was considered one of the top young keepers in the country at the time. He would break into the first team at United later that year, and was an understudy to both Peter Schmeichel and Gary Walsh. In 1995, Pilkington was promoted to second-choice keeper, following Walsh's departure to Middlesbrough. His season, though, was often defined by 2 games, a shock 3-0 League Cup defeat at home to York City, and a thrashing at Tottenham that ended in a 4-1 defeat. Inevitably, he came in for some mild criticism, leading United to sign veteran Tony Coton from Manchester City midway through the campaign. It was the start of the end for Pilkington, despite remaining with the club for several more years. With Raymond van der Houw arriving, Sir Alex Ferguson sent Pilkington out on loan, and he saw out his final 2 years with spells at Rochdale, Rotherham United and Celtic. He would depart United in the summer of '98, having played 8 first-team games. After leaving Old Trafford, Pilkington went on to have a long and respected career in the Football League. Initially, he played for both Port Vale and Wigan Athletic, with a short sabbatical in Welsh football with Aberystwyth Town. Between 2000 and 2005, he played for Mansfield Town, where he made 170 appearances in the league, before another 5-year stint with Nottinghamshire rivals Notts County, where he chalked up 141 appearances, becoming a consistent and reliable figure in League 1 and 2 over a decade. He joined Luton Town initially on loan, but would return to Notts County the following season as a player coach. In 2018, he joined Cambridge United's coaching staff, again signing on as a backup player, before officially retiring at the end of the 2018-19 season. He has since been employed by Barnsley, and as of 2021 is currently back at Luton Town as the club's first-choice goalkeeping coach. Terry Cook was one of the standout young players, a lively, technical right-winger with pace to burn and a wicked delivery. For a time, he was viewed as the natural successor on that flank. In fact, in the early stages of his development, Cook was seen by some at the club as being ahead of David Beckham. He made his first-team debut in 1994 and had the dream start, delivering a pinpoint assist for Ryan Giggs. That should have been his breakout moment, but as Beckham's rise became meteoric, Cook's pathway narrowed. By the time Beckham nailed down the number 7 shirt, Cook's opportunities at Old Trafford had all but dried up, and he was loaned out to Sunderland, Birmingham and Wrexham, before leaving in 1999, having made 8 appearances, scoring 1 goal. In a bold move, his next club were local rivals Manchester City, with Cook playing a role in City's back-to-back promotions, but like before, with the club now back in the Premier League, he struggled to become a first-team regular. Loans with Wigan Athletic and Sheffield Wednesday eventually culminated in a permanent transfer to Grimsby Town in 2002. Despite becoming a fan's favourite early doors, his performances tailed off, and in the summer of 2003, he returned to Sheffield Wednesday, who were now a struggling League One outfit. In 2004, Cook moved to the United States, joining Colorado Rapids in Major League Soccer, where he found more consistent playing time, spending 4 seasons and playing over 100 games. From there, his travels continued, including a spell in Australia with North Queensland Fury, and even a short stint in Azerbaijan with Gabala FC. Following retirement in 2011, Cook returned to live in Colorado and is a coach at the Denver Kickers. Despite coming through the United Academy, Cook has been seen to hold closer modern relations with Manchester City, and has often been present for reunions that commemorate their 1999 playoff final victory. John O'Kane was one of the most versatile defenders in Manchester United's 1992 FA Youth Cup winning team, capable of playing at right-back, centre-back or even in midfield. Strong in the tackle, composed on the ball, and highly rated by coaches, he was seen as a player who could make the leap to the first team. And for a brief moment, it looked like he might. O'Kane was added to the first team during the 93-94 season. He was briefly loaned out to Wimbledon in pre-season of 1995 to be a part of their UEFA Intertoto Cup squad, but he had returned in time for the start of the new season and played in the opening day defeat to Aston Villa. Over the next 2 years he spent further time out on loan with Bury, Wrexham and Bradford City. He remained at Old Trafford until 1998, eventually departing after playing 6 first-team games, scoring once. He remained in the Premier League by signing for Everton but again found himself in and out of the side, and following a loan spell with Burnley, he joined Bolton Wanderers in 1999. O'Kane remained at Bolton for several seasons, and was a semi-regular before joining Blackpool. He dropped out of professional football in 2003 when he joined Hyde United, where he remained for 3 years before retiring. But O'Kane's story doesn't end with his playing career. In later life, he became an outspoken advocate for mental health and autism awareness. Having been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder as an adult, his diagnosis brought clarity to years of personal struggle, including difficulties with anxiety, confidence, and adapting to professional football environments. He has since worked in care and education settings, supporting young people with autism, and has released a book showcasing his own personal journey. George Switzer played as a left-back in United's legendary youth team. After the Youth Cup win, United offered professional deals to several members of the squad, Switzer included. But while some were earmarked for greatness, Switzer was quietly fighting for any opportunity to break through. Ultimately, he was offered a 1-year professional contract, but failed to make a senior appearance, and was released in 1993. He joined Darlington, and went on to play 14 times in what is now League Two, before being released the following season. He made a career for himself over the next decade or so in non-league football, turning out for a number of Manchester-based non-league sides including Hyde United, Salford City and Earlham FC, eventually retiring in 2008. Outside of football, he has worked as an optical technician and a delivery driver, and despite being so far away from the world of some of his former teammates, Switzer has often turned up to reunions and has given several interviews about his time at United. Chris Casper was a highly respected young central defender. Coming from footballing stock, his father, Frank Casper, had played for Burnley and managed in the Football League. Chris was always seen as one of the more tactically mature players in the group. He made his senior debut for United in 1994, and was on the fringes of the first team for a number of seasons. He would make a total of 8 appearances up until leaving in 1998. Whilst at United, Casper spent time on loan at Bournemouth, Swindon Town and Reading, joining the latter on a permanent deal upon his departure from Old Trafford. But, in a match against Cardiff City in December 1999, he suffered a double leg fracture in a tackle that ultimately ended his playing career. He was just 24 years old. But Casper didn't walk away from football. Instead, he transitioned quickly into coaching, and made his mark as joint head coach of Team Bath alongside Paul Tisdale, achieving the amazing feat of getting the student team into the first round of the FA Cup in 2002. At the age of 30, he became one of the youngest managers in the Football League when he took over at Bury in 2005. His time there was a steep learning curve, but he remained with the club until being sacked in 2008. He later had spells as a youth team coach at Bradford City, before a spell as first-team assistant manager at Grimsby Town between 2009 and 2010. He also held a senior role with the Premier League, helping design and implement the Elite Player Performance Plan. In 2017, he was reunited with some of his more famous class of '92 teammates, as he was appointed Director of Football at Salford City, a position he held until leaving in 2024. He is currently employed as the Academy Manager of Burnley, where his son Charlie is a goalkeeper for the under-21 team. Ben Thornley, a flying right-footed left-winger, was seen by many inside Manchester United as a bigger natural talent than even Ryan Giggs at the same age. Older brother to fellow United youngster Rod Thornley, Ben was tipped for great things by many, including United legend Nobby Stiles. He made his United debut in 1994 with Sir Alex Ferguson predicting that he was going to become a mainstay in the United squad. However, a series of injuries, most notably a knee injury sustained at the hands of Blackburn's Nicky Marker, which kept him sidelined for over a year. He later had spells on loan at Stockport County and Huddersfield Town, and would make a total of 14 appearances before leaving in 1998, whilst his brother would eventually remain at the club as the first-team masseur. Thornley would sign for Huddersfield on a permanent deal, initially playing under his former teammate Steve Bruce. He played over 100 games before joining Aberdeen in 2001. From there, it was a steep decline. Brief spells with Blackpool, Bury and Halifax Town would eventually see him drop into non-league football by 2005. He spent time with Bacup Borough, Salford City, Wilmslow Albion and Witton Albion, briefly playing alongside his brother, before retiring in 2010. After retiring, Thornley became a regular presence on MUTV, where he works as a co-commentator and studio analyst, particularly for youth and reserve games. In 2018, he released his autobiography, tackled The Class of '92 Star Who Never Got to Shine, opening up about the emotional and psychological toll of having his big moment taken away. Simon Davies was a quietly effective midfielder in Manchester United's youth squad. While others grabbed headlines, Davies was the kind of player coaches appreciated. Technically tidy, disciplined, and capable of knitting things together in the centre of the park. He made a handful of senior appearances for United in the early to mid-90s, including scoring against Galatasaray in the Champions League. But the path to becoming a regular was blocked by the club's embarrassment of midfield riches. He spent time out on loan with both Exeter City and Huddersfield Town, before leaving Old Trafford for good in 1997. Having made a total of 20 first-team appearances, and was even capped once by Wales whilst a United player, Davies was sold to Luton Town, where he finally found regular first-team football. From there, he went on to have a steady Football League career over the next 4 years, playing for both Macclesfield Town and Rochdale before switching to play in Welsh football, with stints at Bangor City, TNS and Rhyl. In 2006, he joined Chester City as a player coach, before later going on to manage them briefly in 2008. However, he later stepped down and was appointed as the club's youth team manager. In 2010, he joined Manchester City as a youth coach, and would serve as assistant manager to Patrick Vieira for City's elite development squad. He would replace Vieira in 2016, and by the time Davies himself left City in 2018, he was employed as their head of academy at the Etihad complex. After forming a friendship with City captain Vincent Kompany, he followed the Belgian to join Belgian Pro League side Anderlecht, initially as his assistant manager. But in 2019, he stepped into the first-team manager position when Kompany decided to step aside in order to concentrate on playing. His spell as manager didn't last long, and he eventually reverted to assistant under the club's next manager, Frankie Vercauteren. Davies is now back in England and is employed as the academy director at Tottenham Hotspur. Raphael Burke was a winger in United's youth team, and is the first in this video who didn't go on to play football after leaving Old Trafford. Despite being part of that iconic youth team, Burke never made a senior appearance for Manchester United and was released at youth level. He worked in an office for a while, and even on a fruit and veg stall, before returning to football as a youth team coach for Bristol City. Burke has given several interviews in the past, and has stated that he didn't have the hunger and maturity that some of his peers had at a young age. He still coaches youth football to this day, and is local to the Bristol area. Northern Irish forward Colin Telford is apparently so obscure that there is no image of him online that we can find from his time at United. Even looking at the photo, he was absent that day with the caption saying, "Not in picture Colin Telford." He was spotted playing in the Milk Cup, but was sidelined for the entire season, and was subsequently released in 1992. He went on to play in Scotland for Raith Rovers, again seemingly escaping the camera. In more recent times, he has been employed as the head of education at the Football Coaches Association of Ireland, and has previously managed County Antrim-based side Crewe United. Andy Noon was a local lad and young forward who could also play in defence. He joined at age 9 and was snubbed a professional contract in 1992. He briefly joined Football League side Bury, but soon moved into non-league football with Mossley, Atherton Laburnum Rovers, Salford City and Beaconsfield, retiring at the age of 31. He now works as an environmental consultant and still lives in Manchester. You wouldn't necessarily associate Robbie Savage with Manchester United. In fact, many didn't know that the Welshman began his career at Old Trafford, but back in the early 90s, he was very much part of the team. starting his academy career at the time as a centre forward. He wouldn't get the chance to shine though, and despite being offered a professional contract, he failed to make a first-team appearance and was released in 1994. He joined Crewe Alexandra, dropping into the lower leagues, and worked his way back up through sheer grit. He reinvented himself as a tenacious midfielder, the type you hated playing against but always wanted on your side. He eventually got his break in the Premier League when he joined Leicester City in 1997, remaining with the Foxes for 5 years and playing over 200 times. From there, he would remain a top-flight player until 2008, playing for Birmingham City, before a move to Blackburn Rovers in 2004. He later played for Derby County over 3 seasons, and also spent a brief loan with Brighton, eventually retiring in 2011. He also earned 39 caps for Wales, becoming a key figure in their midfield during the early 2000s. After retiring, Savage carved out a new niche in football media. Known for his outspoken views, distinctive voice and constant energy, he became a regular on BBC Radio 5 Live, BT Sport, and other platforms. Love him or loathe him, he's remained a prominent figure in the game. He's also turned his attention to club development, playing a major role at non-league side Stockport Town, even pulling on his boots again. This was before being one of the men who rescued Macclesfield Town from oblivion, with the club reforming as Macclesfield FC, with Savage working on the board of directors and as the club's first-team manager. He is also the father of former Manchester United and current Reading player Charlie Savage. Keith Gillespie was one of the most naturally gifted players to emerge from the class of '92. A lightning-quick right-winger with the ability to beat fullbacks for fun. While he wasn't in the same bracket of fame as David Beckham, he was highly rated at Manchester United and played a major role in the club's '92 FA Youth Cup triumph. He made his senior debut for United in 1993 and scored in his first appearance, showing flashes of the pace and directness that made him such a valuable weapon. But with David Beckham coming through in the same position, opportunities were limited. In 1995, Gillespie became a makeweight in one of the most significant transfers in Premier League history. Part of the £7 million deal that brought Andy Cole to Old Trafford and sent Gillespie to Newcastle United, it turned out to be a brilliant move for the Northern Irishman. At Newcastle, under Kevin Keegan, Gillespie flourished in the famous Entertainers side, a thrilling attacking team that came agonizingly close to winning the Premier League title. He was a key figure in that team, terrorizing defenses down the right flank. Gillespie went on to have a solid top-flight career, also playing for Blackburn Rovers before spells with Leicester City and Sheffield United. He also went on to play for Charlton Athletic, Bradford City, Glentoran, Darlington and Longford Town. Retiring in 2013, he won 86 caps for Northern Ireland, becoming one of their most consistent players of the modern era. Off the pitch, Gillespie's story is more complex. He battled a well-publicized gambling addiction, which saw him lose millions of pounds over the course of his career. In his brutally honest autobiography, And How Not to Be a Football Millionaire, he detailed his struggles, offering a stark look at how the trappings of fame and money can spiral out of control. Since retiring, he's stayed involved in football at a grassroots level in Northern Ireland, and has played for amateur side FC Mindwell. Joe Roberts is another anomaly and an unknown quantity. As part of the squad, he remained with United until being released in 1994. Although there are some photos available, several stories written about the team since, with one even being by Manchester United themselves, know as much to say he didn't play competitive football after his release, with nobody seemingly knowing his whereabouts ever since. Do you know Joe? Maybe one of you can solve this one like you did with Gerald Dobbs in our Merlin 94 football sticker video. Defender Lenny Taylor was subsequently released by United in 1992. Deemed surplus to requirements, he was snubbed to professional contract. He initially garnered interest from Manchester City, but resurfaced on trial with Walsall, which was ultimately an unsuccessful one. He eventually did get a contract with non-league Solihull Borough, but ended up stuck in the reserves, which was the start of the end of his brief career. Since then, he has worked in a number of different jobs, including electrical labouring and working in a metal coating factory. Colin McKee is a name that rarely comes up when discussing Manchester United's class of '92, but he was very much part of that generation, a promising forward with an eye for goal. Born in Glasgow, McKee joined United as a trainee in the late '80s, and was named the Denzel Haroun Reserve Team Player of the Year in 1993, an award that hinted at first-team potential. But like many of his peers, breaking into a United side stacked with emerging legends proved a near impossible task. McKee made just one senior appearance, and after a loan with Bury, with opportunities limited, he left Old Trafford in search of regular football. He joined Kilmarnock in the Scottish Premier Division and found more playing time, making over 50 appearances across 2 seasons. After that, his career became more nomadic, featuring spells with Falkirk, Queen of the South, Ross County, Stirling Albion, Queen's Park, Fauldhouse United, and Icelandic side Víkingur. Since retiring, McKee did briefly coach at the Kilmarnock Academy in a minor role, but had predominantly worked as a maintenance man for a building firm in Glasgow. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy weekly strolls down memory lane, please consider giving Retro Football Club a subscribe. See you next time.